We are live. I'm thinking, yes, yes. Welcome. It's the SYP Today. Biggie is here. We got two SYP creators. Speak Your Piece creator Scott. How are you?
Good. How are you guys? Ready to go? We've dicked around on camera for an hour, but we're gonna get it going this time. So
You were late. Um, also, Speak Your Piece creator Kief is here. Kief, how are you?
Good. Yeah. No. This has been a struggle. This is this is taking way too long.
Yeah, no, this is the fucking video on this is not working. Do you guys have captions still? By the way, in case you're wondering, on SYP today, we're using a Google Meet because Skype was shit before and we couldn't work on Discord. You guys still have caption on?
yes, that's
Yes.
hilarious.
Oh,
This
so you
is
can
so
just
good.
so it's just me swearing the entire time, pretty much.
Yeah.
No,
Yep.
I'm not. I'll save it for later on. It'll be good later on. Um, we're going to discuss today about the Vegas Golden Knights, 2017-2018 Vegas Golden Knights, their inaugural season. They are now a powerhouse in the NHL at the moment, even though there is no hockey.
Yeah.
Um, what do we want? What are we going to? So we're going to start with from how they got their team, the expansion when they got voted, and then we're going to move towards, I guess, almost today, sort of a
Yeah, I think just
retrospect.
go in chronological order. I think that would make sense.
Right from the beginning.
Yeah.
Keith, your screen is glitched, so that's pretty cool. Um,
Cool.
yeah. So let's start with you guys have the notes here. I took down notes, but I'm sharing with you guys because I'm hosting this Google Meet, so I can't go back to my notes. What day? It was 2016. They got the team.
And I think it was end of June. The NHL announced that Vegas Golden Knights or Vegas would have a team. Oh, sorry,
Yeah.
that there would be an expansion team, and it was between Quebec City and Vegas, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Between Vegas and uh the other, Quebec.
Okay.
Yeah. That was June 22, 2016.
It's funny. Last night I was watching a little bit of because Sportsnet is now showing. This is a sidebar. Sportsnet is now showing some of the World Cup of Hockey in from 2016, and I think they were showing a game from Quebec City and how beautiful that arena actually because they built a new arena compared to the last one that Nordiques were at, and how beautiful that arena is, and the NHL's just like, nah, we're going to Vegas.
I think Quebec may eventually get a team. It's just going to take some time.
Well, we can discuss that on another pod, but this is supposed to be the Vegas pod. I just wanted to have that little sidebar. June 22nd, 2016. So the league unanimously approves Las Vegas.
Yes.
Yep.
That is the first expansion since 2000 when they brought in Minnesota and Columbus.
Columbus, yeah.
Okay. So what transpired? I guess in the 6 months to a year after they got their team.
Well, they got George McPhee, and yeah, basically just prepared for the expansion draft.
Did they name a coach at that time, or do you know
Um,
was it later?
I think it was April.
yeah, in April of 2017, so it was
Right.
leading
Okay.
into next season.
Because
Gotcha.
I'm pretty sure at that point between the time they got their team and the expansion draft, they were still building the arena in Las Vegas.
Right.
They were getting the logo and jerseys figured out.
Yeah.
And really just building up the season ticket support in Vegas. Because I think correct me if I'm wrong, but I want to say they sold out something like 12,000 season ticket deposits in 30 minutes.
That sounds right. Yeah, it blew up
Yeah,
big
it was
time.
because it's the only really show in town for pro sports. So that was basically I'm pretty sure what they were trying to do between getting the team and the expansion draft in June.
Yep.
Yep. That's about right.
All right, so then expansion draft comes in June. Was this before or after the entry draft? I think it was before.
It was before because they had the team. I remembered like they had the team, and then the first couple draft picks were like a big deal.
Well, and they were doing the award show too, I think.
I think it was the same night. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, no, yeah, I remember that because I was watching the awards, and then and then it moved on to the expansion draft.
So with the expansion draft, the Vegas Golden Knights was it Calvin Pickard first overall in there?
That was the first
Yep.
pick, yeah.
That's really hold up well. I remember watching Calvin when he was playing in the Dub, and his brother Chet.
Yeah, I for some reason I know Chet more than Calvin.
I think Chet was actually the better Dub goalie, but
Calvin's turned better in the NHL for sure.
So they made how many picks in total? 30 picks.
30 picks.
Yeah.
So the most notable picks they made, Jonathan Marchessault from the Florida Panthers.
Yep.
Marc-Andre Fleury from the Pittsburgh Penguins.
Yep.
Yeah. James Neal from the Nashville Predators.
I was gonna say James Neal.
That was after he was electric in the playoffs for the Predators because they went to the Cup final that year, right?
That's true. That is true. Was William Karlsson, I think, was another good pick.
Yeah, really good pick.
Well, I think at the time, like he was like a decent player, but then he became William Karlsson.
Well, he came from Columbus, right? So I don't think he really got the opportunity for some reason in Columbus to do well, and then it finally came together in Vegas for some reason.
But... Yeah, like I think for William Karlsson, like he's good now, but like at the time of the picking, like okay, I mean like he's a decent player, but like we don't know what he's actually like about, and then he became good.
I think with Karlsson, it was a thing of he wasn't in Columbus, he wasn't with enough good players around him, and once he got put in between Marchessault and Riley Smith, he kind of just blossomed from there, because Marchessault and Smith would help set him up, and then he just put on a clinic.
Yeah, because he had over 40 goals that year.
43 goals, 78 points that year.
Yeah.
So
there was it was a decent pick at the time, but then it became a very good pick.
True.
So on that night too, George McPhee made some trades leading up to the expansion draft. If you want to go over some of the trades, I know probably my favorite one. Probably my favorite one I want to make. This is a low key good trade, but probably not thought of much at the time. And one of the players that's now gone was Alex Tuch and Eric Holla that Vegas got from, I believe it was Minnesota. Minnesota traded Tuch to Vegas so that Vegas could select Eric Holla.
Instead of who?
I can't remember who it was. It was somebody else. Was it maybe Niederreiter? Or maybe Niederreiter was protected. But
maybe.
But basically they traded Alex Tuch and Eric Holla, and I want to say even a conditional third or fourth. That's not the best trade that McPhee made during the expansion draft, but it's kind of one of my low-key favorites because Alex Tuch has turned out to be not a superstar, but a star player for Vegas as well.
He's been key for sure. I think another trade that comes to mind with my Ducks is so Clayton Stoner was picked by the Golden Knights, but that was so Vegas couldn't pick Josh Manson, who was left unprotected, and instead the Ducks sent Shea Theodore to the Knights, which he's been fantastic. He's been their arguably top defenseman offensively.
That's kind of an interest. Like I don't know that it's now almost 3 years, but that seemed like a lot for Anaheim. It felt like at the time, and it kind of still does now, trading Theodore and Stoner to get rid of Manson. I know Stoner isn't playing for them still, but
yeah, it's. That one was tough because, again, the Ducks probably wanted to protect Manson because at the time they had Fowler, Lindholm, Vatanen,
and Montour.
Montour, and they also had Bieksa. So
yeah.
they needed to protect 4 of them. So, again, Manson was the odd man out, and they didn't want to protect only 3 forwards because then they would have lost a Silverberg, a Raquel, because Kessler, again, at the time was...
He was still a good playoff performer, Ryan Kessler.
He wasn't. The issue with Kessler at the time is because he got injured, but he had a no trade clause. That's why they had to protect him.
Yeah, they like a lot of the teams had protect players that had like certain like contract type things, and I think Kessler was one of them. He had
he was one of them.
No movement.
Yeah, so which is too bad, but again, that's what it is, and that's why we lost Theodore because he was because again the Ducks had a lot of faith in Manson, and he's turned out really well, luckily.
So
Yeah.
so pretty much the expansion draft. I think we'd all give it like a B, B plus.
Yeah, I mean, like with the expansion draft, like you can get some, I would say, like decent players, like some decent top 6 players or like top 4 D-men. But like really, if you think about it, like we didn't think Vegas was going to be good after the expansion draft. So I mean, like the expansion draft is hit or for me is hit or miss. I mean, like you have some good players, but like at the end of the day, it's the teams that didn't protect these players, and you just kind of got like the bottom of the barrel, in my opinion.
Right.
The other thing I remember at the time too, there was some talk about Marc-Andre Fleury just not being clutch anymore. Like he was not a prime time player. He
Yeah, I always thought
was
that was weird.
he
I
was
always thought that was
he was struggling with Pittsburgh when for a few years there because they lost, I believe, to the Rangers and a couple other teams, Boston. So there was, there was talk about Fleury who wasn't being clutch anymore, and then he got replaced by Matt Murray, so that made him expendable for the Penguins. And now it's kind of funny because in Vegas, Marc-Andre Fleury has been probably
the
their biggest
guy.
player.
Yeah, I'd say
Yeah,
so. I'd say he's been their most important player at least. And again, I think part of that's because Fleury's kind of a showman, and he wasn't the guy in Pittsburgh anymore, whereas he is the guy in Vegas.
Well, and now in Las Vegas, where it's like showtime and there's big lights and there's big spectacles and it's supposed to be entertainment, Marc-Andre Fleury is the guy that Vegas trusts, that they lean on to get them to their wins. So it's
Yeah.
kind of funny to see how you know how the turntables when it comes to Fleury in from one situation to another. But then in the NHL entry draft is when they also, I thought, got a rant, like they just basically committed highway robbery in the first 15 picks of the NHL entry draft in 2017.
Yeah, because they had
yeah,
what? They had 3 picks, right? Or 2?
They had 3 first round picks.
Oh,
yeah. And in
that's
that
great.
draft too, like first one, Cody Glass, he's already turning out super nice for them.
Former Portland Winterhawk.
Mm-hmm.
He's like he almost stepped in right away. Like he's like he I think he played a little bit for the Chicago Wolves, but he's pretty much made the jump from Portland to Vegas without any real issue. Like he's fit in right away in Vegas.
Yeah, but he had that one season of like refinement right from his draft, and then pretty much stepped in almost without missing a beat.
So
Cody,
and then
Cody Glass, right?
yeah,
Yeah,
Cody
Cody Glass.
Glass.
Yeah, he's been again. He was dominant at the juniors that Ian, you and I watched, right? He put on a clinic there, and he's just been a solid player. He reminds me a lot of kind of like Krejci in a way from Boston.
Yeah.
I can see that. Yeah.
And then I think the next pick they made was Nick Suzuki, who I
Oh,
believe was playing for London at the time.
no, he was playing for
No, not Barry. That was his brother.
his
Um,
brother was Barry. It wasn't London though. I think it might have been the Generals, Oshawa.
Possibly.
Yeah,
But
I'll find it.
that was a really good trade or a good pick at the time for Nick Suzuki, getting him from the Ontario League. Do you guys like the Suzuki for and I believe it was Thomas Tatar for Pacioretty?
yeah, I think that's fair. I still think Pacioretty still has some good value in the league. Like I think he's still good enough to like warrant that kind of return, in my opinion.
Absolutely. He's the key power forward on the Knights, and again, we'll talk about another trade as well. But he and Stoner have been, or Mark Stone, sorry, have been really good.
So, and then they round out the 15th, basically top 15 in 2017, with now departed Eric Brandstrom, D-man, who I guess is kind of like what Ottawa's looking for, an Eric Carlson type D guy.
In a way, yeah. Him and just picturing him and Shabbat in the same
Mhm.
defensive core is pretty scary.
Yeah.
So
Also, I just wanted to double check the Nick Suzuki thing. You play for Owen Sound.
Owen
Owen
Sound.
Sound. Okay, thank you, Keith. Um, but Brandstrom's gone, and they brought in Mark Stone, who really, Stone's a really solid player, really capable player. But it's kind of also interesting. We'll talk about it later on how Vegas just win now right away in trading prospects for winnable guys.
Yeah, at the time I always thought that was weird. I was like, well, you don't have this, like, obviously, like, a new team, you don't have a prospect like system yet because you're new. And I always found it weird that it's like they're trying to win now. It's like, wouldn't you want to take this time to build towards the future and then worry about that win now? But then obviously it worked out for them.
So I think part of Vegas' thing is that they are very competitive, and again, they're in a weaker NHL division compared to others, and I think they have the chance to go far in the playoffs. So again, they might as well go for it and sacrifice a bit of their future. And again, the thing with Vegas that's scary too is that they still have their top prospect, and they're going to be drafting every year, so it's not like they're going to be going anywhere too soon. So
Yeah.
So let's get into the season then, 2017-2018. I would say 95% of people had Vegas finishing as the worst team in the league that year.
Yeah,
yeah,
I fully had them as they're probably not going to do that well.
Because I remember saying too before the year that, like, just to try and be different, like I said, they're going to finish above Vancouver because Vancouver didn't have a good team in 2017-2018. They were struggling quite a bit too. And I think I threw the hot take out at the beginning of the year, like, oh yeah, I'm going to take Vegas to be better than Vancouver, which is like, I don't know, 6th or 7th in that division compared to being in the basement. And it was kind of like, whoa, okay.
Yeah. I don't know. Well, Vancouver's on the come up now, so I don't really care. But it seems I think everyone didn't there's no one that could have predicted that season what they could have done. Like, I refuse to think anyone was gonna think they were gonna win the cup at the
I
beginning.
think yeah. Again, this speaks to the coaching of Gerard Gallant, who is the coach that got hired in their in the first season, and again, he was there for a certain amount of time until Pete DeBoer stepped in. And again, Vegas to me had an unbelievable amount of speed on their team, and how they played really showed that. And I think coming from kind of a technical side of things, they were hard to beat because of how fast they were.
I always thought it was weird when you brought up Galan. I always thought that was weird when they fired him. Like, that never made any sense to me.
I think it was a
We'll
disconnect with the management.
we'll discuss later on. We'll discuss after this year. Let's get through the year and let's talk about Vegas now. So the Knights started the season 2017-2018. They started the season 3-0, which was the best start ever for an NHL expansion team. And then they won their first home game on October 10th.
Yep.
Yeah,
And that was after the Las Vegas shooting as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's what brought them together, I think.
Yeah. Absolutely. I think they really rallied around that, and they kind of made it a motivational piece in their locker room, and I think that made a big difference throughout the season. And again, yeah, that was huge, like you said, for sure.
Yeah, because they ended up retiring 58, which happened to be the number of people that were killed in the shooting. And yeah, I think that definitely brought them all together. And also with Derek Englund, I believe, is from Vegas or from Nevada.
He's from Nevada. Yep.
Yeah, from Nevada. Like, that was a big thing they're talking about with that storyline, like, because that was his home state basically, and then this thing happened, and they but it ended up just kind of, I feel like they ended up using it as like the fuel to get them through the season, and it worked out. So
Well, and I think part of that too with the team is that it was a new team, it was an expansion team, and no one really knew if they were going to be good, if they were going to be like a winning team. So at least from the perspective of the team, they could connect with the city with something, connect with the fans with something, and create an interest, sort of a connection through that. It's a shitty connection, and it's a shitty way to, have to create a common interest with your fans. But at least, they could go with that, if that makes sense. They could,
like something that ties them all together.
Yeah, and
For sure.
it kind of just worked out. I mean, it's unfortunate that people die, but it kind of worked out for Vegas that they all, Vegas strong, became sort of that motto for the team for the rest of the year. And even now, they're still showing Vegas strong when the UFC is in Vegas and they have Vegas strong on the ring, on the cage. It's kind of like, wow, this, it means a lot to the people of Las Vegas, and anybody who's connected with the city, the sports, you name it, anybody who's connected with Las Vegas, it still has a certain meaning to them.
Yeah, I think it just it really tied everything together.
So the Knights started 3-0. They were winning the division, I think, throughout most of the year.
Yeah, it was. They pretty much had it on lockdown throughout the whole year. There wasn't too much competition. I mean, I think that was 2017-18. So I think the Ducks were up there, the Kings were up there, the Sharks too.
Yeah.
I think the three California teams definitely gave them a run, but otherwise it was kind of wasn't much to it. So
yeah, I think though because obviously the reason they did so well is that the Pacific weren't even that good, which kind of sucks.
That was, I think, part of it. But another also, when it got to about, I would say about Christmas or January, is when people actually started like taking them a bit seriously.
yeah, because they realized they didn't tail off. They were like, okay, these guys aren't slowing down. Like,
Yeah, they've been doing this well for 3 months. They're probably going to continue this.
yep.
Yeah.
It's funny because even with injuries, because I know Fleury and also their backup Malcolm Subban got hurt, and
that was I remember actually no, that was one of the things I remember from that is that they went through like 5 or 6 goalies because they just ended up losing everyone.
And they kept winning. They kept winning games. They were losing goalies, but
at his moment.
I was gonna say, they had Oscar Dansk, I believe, started a game. Maxime Legacy started a couple games, I think.
Didn't
Dylan Ferguson
started a couple.
So the whole year, the whole team was just resilient, and they just never gave up. Like, even when there was adversity, like their goalie injuries, they just kept working, and they kept grinding. But I think one of my favorite trades from Vegas during the season was in February, when, even though they were already doing well and they were pretty much a lock to win their division, they went out and got Ryan Reeves from Pittsburgh.
Yeah, he was I think he's always been a big role player, and he's been someone very important, especially in the locker room. I think he really helped the guys get through the rest of the season, and he was key in the playoffs too.
Yeah, he was playing pretty well in the playoffs. I remember just thinking or to me that kind of trade just went under the radar, but then it actually showed in the playoffs, bringing in that toughness that a team like that,
the toughness,
needs.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, it kind of went against everything that we thought of with Vegas. They're a speed team, they play fast, they're a skill team, and then they bring in Ryan Reeves from Pittsburgh, who does none of those things. He's not a speed guy. He's not fast. He's not a skill guy, and yet he fits in perfectly with that team and that city, and it's been one of the perfect marriages of player team in a long time.
100%.
Yeah,
I agree with that.
I think the reason why he did so well is he was the one to bring that kind of element that they didn't quite necessarily have. That kind of toughness, that kind of grit, and eventually just kind of spread through everyone. And then everyone else brought it.
bit of a spark, and I think in February, because they kind of just had the same team throughout the whole year, like that kind of gave them like the jump, like, oh, okay, like we're going in for it, like we're going for a run, like because
Always.
they were expecting to lose in the first or second round. I remember at this point it was kind of like, well, okay, if we get to this playoffs, great, like that's awesome, but let's just get to the second round and then that's fine. But no, they kept going. So
Yeah, they kept going. I feel like that would almost have been worse. It's like it's good that they almost won the cup, but I feel like the worst thing would have been if they lost in like the first round.
yeah,
First round.
So
Like
Yeah.
so with that, they pretty much won division like late February, early March.
right.
They set all different kinds of records for expansion team, most wins in a season, most points in a season. They were a 100-point team, weren't
They
they?
were, yeah, I think they were or close.
They were a 100-point team that won that division. And
Yeah,
then when they got to the playoffs, they're playing the LA Kings.
yeah. Oh, actually, hold on, sidebar before we go any further.
Yes.
So can we all agree the goal of the year from the Golden Knights was the Carlson between the legs against the Sharks?
yeah, on the penalty kill.
Oh,
I
unbelievable.
filthy, filthy.
Filthy.
That was that was pretty ballsy.
That's
So
one of the cleanest goals I've ever seen.
Was that the same year as the McDavid through the legs from that?
No, the
I think it
McDavid
was a
one was the
different
year.
year.
Yeah, because I remember that one where he just kind of, McDavid was McDavid kind of moment. But no, that goal that William Karlsson was pretty sick.
And I think that was right before the playoffs. So I think at that point, that kind of to me screamed like, okay, these guys are legit. Like Carlson's an elite player. Like I can't wait to see him in the playoffs. So
So we get to the playoffs and they play LA round 1. And I think at this time people were kind of skeptical, as you say, Scott, because LA was a veteran team. They'd won 2 cups earlier that decade, and I think they kind of just thought the playoff experience would be key to LA winning.
yeah, but
And
again, here's the thing with that LA team is that they were on the fall and the Golden Knights were on the rise. So it was kind of like one of those things where like something's got to give.
Yeah,
And
I remember watching that series, and the games were pretty close. Like there's like a couple. It was like 2-1, 3-2, like those kind of close games. And I remember like I was actually like excited to watch those ones because when I saw the first 2 games were kind of close, I was like, oh, I feel like that would be a sick game to watch every time. And then they ended up sweeping the Kings, but it was
well, just
both,
like
I think made it. I think in a way those super close games kind of like drew the interest of the league because there's these two teams that basically weren't scoring on each other. They're just playing really good defense and just brought like excitement and something you'd want to get behind, especially for a new team like Vegas.
well, and just playoff hockey is so much different than regular season hockey. Like
yeah,
Vegas was in. I loved that playoff series. I remember thinking back on it, and I just remember how much I loved that playoff series. Even though it was a sweep, even though Vegas was pretty much in control the entire time, and like they had a double overtime game in game 2. Both goalies were fantastic, and it was just too it was just too bad that LA like couldn't win a game to make it go further. But in a way, I'm kind of glad it didn't because the sweep gave Vegas credibility. It gave the respect that they have been kind of lacking almost in a way all year,
yeah.
and
Kind
it
of sent
just
shockwaves through the league. It was like, uh-oh, these guys are here to play.
when
Yeah,
and when just like if you can beat a team like the LA Kings, who yes, as you were saying, Scott, they went on a decline, but they still have Jonathan Quick is an incredible player. Anze Kopitar, Drew Doughty. Like if you can beat
Right.
those guys in the playoffs, then you're pretty good. You're gonna be something.
For sure.
So then the second round they play the Sharks, and that one was a little bit less memorable of a series, but it actually helped create the rivalry next year. But they beat the Sharks in 6 games.
Yeah. Again,
Yeah.
that series, nothing really sticks out to me for me remembering anything, but it was, again, well played series by the Knights. They dominated a lot of the play. But again, they just skated the Sharks into the ground.
Yeah, the Sharks could not keep up with the speed of it. Like, the Marlowe and Thorntons could not keep up with the Knights through 6 games.
Yep.
Yeah. No, to be honest, nothing really strikes me from this series. And then obviously now they have that sort of rivalry because of what happened in the playoffs the next time that they met.
Right.
But that's a whole different
Yeah.
thing.
That's another podcast.
So
Yeah.
then they play Winnipeg in the Western Conference Finals, and I remember thinking beforehand, like it was kind of not a shitty series, but
This one made me mad because I remember at the beginning of all of this, I made my bracket and I didn't have Vegas getting this far. I think I had Winnipeg winning the cup because I always wanted a Canadian team to win the cup again, and I thought Winnipeg would be the best option to do so. And by the time that they got there, I was just like, and they got basically dominated by Vegas. I was like, man, ruined this
well,
bracket.
Winnipeg won game 1, and then Vegas won 4 straight. But I remember because I was in Regina, and for the Mem at the time, and like there were some Jets fans, like there was not a big support for Winnipeg, but like there were people who were rooting for the Jets to win and wanting Winnipeg to win, and some people from Winnipeg because there is no NHL team in Saskatchewan, and I can remember sitting in sort of where the dining area was at the time, and people watching this, and everybody's kind of looking around at one another like, are these guys actually gonna go to the Cup? Like everybody's just stunned at the fact that like this expansion team with a bunch of nobodies is gonna go play in the Stanley Cup and beat the Jets.
Yeah,
That was a
I was
big
definitely one of
thing.
those people. I was just like, is this like actually for real? That like,
Yeah.
I
And again,
I kind of felt like after the sweep, I was like, okay, you know what? They have some sort of credibility to them. 6 games happened. I was like, to be honest, I didn't really pay attention to it, but I wanted to pay attention to the Winnipeg one, and I was like, man, there's no way that this is happening right now.
again, a lot of that speaks. I remember watching the games, and like the Jets, they just got outplayed. And again, it was something where either maybe the Jets were tired from the same. I think they played the Blues in the second round, and they got beat up by the Blues. Whatever it might have been. Either way, like the Jets just couldn't. They couldn't properly break out. The Knights' forecheck was just too good.
Yeah, it was just an overall like just getting dominated.
Dominated, yeah.
Yeah.
So
After game 1.
yeah, after game 1, it was just all Vegas, and so then Vegas became the first expansion team to make a cup, and they go up against the Washington Capitals. And I thought Vegas were gonna beat the Capitals because again at that time there was the Capitals aren't clutch. Ovechkin's not clutch. Ovi's no Crosby, and Vegas had so much momentum at the time that it was kind of like, you know what? I'm gonna pick the Knights to win, and I'm gonna say they're gonna win in 7. And after the introductions when they did all like the sort of pregame entertainment and the light show and the stabbing or whatever with the sword, I was like, I'm all in. Like I am with, and I'm an Ovi guy, and I am with the Vegas Golden Knights this series.
I remember once they made the cup,
The pregame show was
that well, like once it was set, that there was an interesting stat that they put out that every expansion team, like their first season, they win the cup because I believe it was St. Louis. They showed. I remember the stat. I can't quite remember it, but it was something about how every expansion team in their first season ends up winning the cup because they tied it to St. Louis that had done it.
Oh, because so 1968 St. Louis or 67 St. Louis came in the league with 6 other teams, and they won the cup 68, 69, 70. They lost all 3 times. I think 2 of them were to the Habs, and the other one was to the Bruins.
I see.
Yeah.
So
And that's what they're talking about with that the expansion teams come in, and some of them quickly win a cup, and some of them are just trash.
So Vegas wins game 1. They dominated the Capitals. It was pretty much Vegas from the get-go. And then things kind of fall apart for them in games 2 through 5.
Well, again, the thing with game 2 that was huge was the save by Holtby.
Yeah.
Because Alex Tuck basically was going to put the Knights in the lead, and then Holtby said no. I think we all know that save. I think the big paddle stop, and I don't know how he stopped that, but
yeah, that's pretty much what flipped the tables on them.
And then by the time we get to DC, and I think it was game 4, and I want to say the Caps blew them out like 6-2 or something. 6-4. It wasn't a game 4 was not a close game, and I think by then we kind of just figured, all right, this thing's done. Like Washington's cracked the code. The Caps are going to win this one, and we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, I think, from what I remember, is that it was pretty much all Capitals from there, from the save by Holtby.
After this, yeah, I'm with Kief there. After the save, it kind of just became like, yeah, it was all Capitals.
Huge momentum shift.
So then the Caps win game 5 in Vegas, and everybody was happy for Ovi and the Capitals and winning, but I don't think anybody really thought this was a failure of a season from Vegas.
Oh, no, absolutely not.
No,
I think
absolutely not.
it was actually kind of like, in the way, the best thing that could have happened for Vegas. Even, obviously, no, you want to win, but like making it all the way there and just everything that happened in that season, like I think that was the best case scenario for everything, because now I feel like everyone recognizes them as a legit team. Everyone would want to get behind it, and just like they drove enough popularity for themselves to like hold that fan base, and so like I think this was like the best thing that could have happened for them.
Totally. Absolutely. And even if they just made it to the 3rd round like that, I still would have considered that a success as well. And if the Jets had played the Capitals, who knows? Big what ifs. That's another podcast topic. But again, the Knights were great, and again, I still think of them as one of the top teams in the NHL at this point.
Yeah, they've been able to hold their skill, and their team play, and they've just been dominant pretty much.
Still a powerhouse.
Yeah.
So, and then then the next year they lose to San Jose controversially.
Oh my gosh.
And now this year, the season is unfinished. We don't know what the fate is for Vegas. But they did fire Gerard Gallant this year, which kind of surprising.
Yeah, kind of surprising, yeah. I always thought that was so weird because he didn't win, but like he got voted in as one of the coaches for the All-Star game. Pretty much.
He was that. He also won the Jack Adams in his first year. And usually a year removed from winning the award, you don't really get fired. Like that's just not something that happens. I know.
Yeah, and they weren't even bad.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I think I said, like I said before, I think it's just a disconnect with management and some players that might have been the problem.
Maybe because that was weird. And then they brought in Pete DeBoer, which wasn't his last stint in San Jose. I believe.
He was with San Jose,
yeah, and that was like they were bad.
Well,
Were they?
when the board comes, he was the coach of San Jose last year when they lost to them in 7 games, and I don't know, maybe like Vegas has kind of been hit and miss this year. I think they were on track before the whole season shut down, and maybe they just thought that teams figured out how to play Vegas, so they needed a change. I don't know, but with the board, you know, it kind of again adds to the rivalry a little bit with San Jose, because we were also wondering when Vegas first got their team. It's like, okay, well, who are their rivals then? Like L.A., San Jose, Anaheim, Arizona, and now it's pretty clear. I would say they have a rivalry with San Jose, L.A., Arizona to a certain extent. Um, like Vegas has kind of established themselves really nicely in their 3 years of existence.
Yeah,
Absolutely. Yep.
Yeah,
No doubting that.
Yeah, no, fully agree.
So we don't know what the future has in store. But what do you guys think is your most memorable moment from Vegas in their first season?
I think when I think back at it, the only thing that really sticks out to me was that whole goalie debacle and how they basically came out of it. Because I remember, for some reason, I always thought of Oscar Dansk as like really good. Like I remember seeing him, like 2011, 2012, whenever he was drafted, and I always had this like feeling. I never knew why. Like nothing backed it up, but I always had this feeling that was just like I feel like he's really good. And then he got the chance and then played
Yeah.
how he did. So that to me, that was like, I feel like I was vindicated. Always trusted this guy. But I have no idea why I was like stuck onto Oscar Dance. But
Crazy.
I was gonna say, sorry, Scott, but we could just do a whole podcast on guys that we have, we believe in for absolutely no reason and no evidence to back it up, but we still believe in them for some reason.
yeah, no,
For
that
some
was
reason.
it.
Yeah.
It wasn't even like there was any reason behind it. Like I don't know why. I just saw his name once and I was like, I like that. I'm gonna stick with that.
That's funny.
And then then he ended up
That's
having
awesome.
a nice little run before he got injured as well. I believe he was also one of the people that got
Yeah,
injured.
he got injured, but then Subban came back, and then Fleury came back, and then everything
Yeah.
was back.
So Scott,
Um,
what's your favorite moment from Vegas' inaugural season?
Yeah, for me, again, being someone that loves watching hockey overall, again, people know me as a Ducks fan, but again, I love watching the Golden Knights. I think a lot of times I love watching their speed, and I always would think of like, okay, let's watch the Knights game tonight because just they were so much fun to watch, and it was their speed, their skill, and just overall how they played the game. To me, was really fun to watch, and again, I think the Carlson goals to me still stands out. How to me that just so sick.
Yeah, nasty.
Unreal goal. Like that, I think that was to me highlight of the year. But just overall, the games watching them was just you just knew something was up with them and that they were good, and they were. So.
Yeah.
Because I mean, myself personally, I can't remember one. I mean, the Carlson goal, I guess, but there wasn't really one like big like, oh yeah, when I think of Vegas, 2017, 2018, this is the moment that I come to. It's just like they just were winning and they just were good, and no one was really
Yeah.
like expecting it. They just kind of surprised everybody. They kind of shocked everybody, and maybe I guess what I remember most is just like the collective like, holy fuck, like, are these guys actually going to do this? Are these guys actually like becoming a Stanley Cup contender in less than a year and a half of being a collective team?
Yep. It's
So
scary to think about how they came so far so quickly. It was impressive,
oh
and
yeah,
Kief is gone.
yeah, Keith just dipped us, but yeah,
Yeah,
no,
sorry. I had to deal with something.
so that'll be so yeah, that was Vegas' inaugural season. We'll see how Seattle does in a couple years here.
I'm excited about that
That'll be a
actually.
pod.
I want to
Me too. Me too. I think it's gonna be.
I
It's gonna
don't
give Vancouver
I don't
very.
think they'll like recreate the same level of success. To be honest, I think it seemed very lucky what happened with Vegas. To be honest, I mean they're like decent, but like no one expected it. So I
No.
think but I feel like finally like we're gonna see Seattle and it's gonna be like, oh, okay, this is actually what's supposed to happen.
Well, I think I would give George McPhee probably an A- grade on building that team in the first year, like in terms of how well he nailed the expansion draft, the entry draft, building the team to what he wanted. I mean, McPhee deserves a lot of credit. Gerard Gallant deserves a lot of credit for coaching
Yeah.
that team and the style that he wanted to use them.
Absolutely. And I think the fans of Vegas too, they really help support the Knights again. The fans are always important. It's very cliche, but they are important, and they did definitely help out the Knights in lots of ways. So
Yeah.
So, all right, that's the SYP rewind on the Vegas Golden Knights 2017-2018 season. Thank you very much for listening. We'll have more pods this week. Kief, are we doing our Tampa Columbus this week?
I mean, whenever, man, you can just don't let me know when.
All right, maybe we'll do it after this one. Who knows? Um, but thank you all for listening. Much appreciated, and we got more content coming out for you later. Peace out.
uh,
Peace.